Okay, really interesting survey by the PCA, Harmy, um, and Daryl Mitchell, the president of the PCA, has expressed serious concern about the schedule, to the extent where he has actually said they want to preempt the possibility of a tragedy. And that's referring not to the amount of cricket necessarily, but the logistics between getting to and from games, getting from one to the other. More back-to-back games than ever before. Some really, really long motorway journeys. And Joe Root has echoed those sentiments as well. Now, it doesn't really affect him so much. I mean, in England, they've got a pretty busy schedule, but really, really interesting. 81% of county players have expressed serious concern about the domestic schedule, particularly the Blast.
Yeah, the Blast seems to be the one that everybody's worried about. Back-to-back games, back-to-back nights, because everybody wants to play on a Thursday or Friday night. They want to play on a Sunday afternoon. And you know that you've got to listen to the players. As much as I'm all for county cricket being that marathon it's always been, and producing the players, and it's such a difficult subject to sort of to get right. We had a former captain of mine did a survey not long ago, the Sir Andrew Strauss performance review, and when he put in what he put in, like we've said many times on this show, Manners, in 5 or 10 years' time, everything that Strauss said will happen, and the players are the ones that are saying it this time. And I think they've got to be listened to. I'm caught between two places on this. Yes, I would love nothing more than playing 10 first-class matches in England with a 5-day break, 6-day break, try and mirror test match cricket in a way that you get enough time in between to recover from one game and prepare for the next. The problem in this country is the weather. If you play 10 first-class matches in this country, you could lose 1 or 2 to the weather, or 3 or 4 games can be affected by the weather. And then that then becomes a Mickey Mouse season. It really does. So I quite like the 14 games. It'll come down to 12 and it'll eventually come down to 10. What we're trying with Kookaburra Ball, for me, it's a good idea, but it needs to be changed to middle of the summer. Hybrid pitches could be a way forward to make the product better. Producing better cricketers, all-round better cricketers, producing fast bowlers. Not sure it works for the spin, but that's a different argument again. The Blast is the one, and you've got county members, county chairman wanting to play at weekends because that's when they can fill their grounds. But you've also got to get players from A to B, and unfortunately, trying to get a player from A to B in this country is very, very difficult at this moment. Whether you go up in the air, you go on the road or the train or whatever. So that is the domestic side. I don't put the 100 into the domestic side because even though it is domestic cricket, that's not going anywhere. So we can play around with the rest, but unfortunately, we'll have to leave the 100 where it is. It's going to make counties an absolute fortune. Some more than others, but it's going to make them a fortune. The problem you have with that is divvying up the right bit of pie. But I think you've got to get the domestic side, which is 50-over cricket, red ball cricket, and then the T20 Blast. You've got to get that right because you've got to listen to the players. And I think at the minute, I don't think they've got that scheduling right. Largely down because of where the 100 is. But the 100's there's going to be a game changer because at the minute, we are probably 3 or 4 counties have got going out of business. And if them 3 or 4 counties go out of business, some might say, yes, that's great. Then the job's a lot easier. It's not easier. That's not great. We don't need counties going out of business. We need 18 first-class counties because we need 18 first-class satellites for players to come through their systems at 13, 14, 15, 16 to be the next Joe Root, the next Ben Stokes. I keep going on about what Durham have got. Durham became a first-class county in 1992. If it didn't, I wouldn't have won the Ashes. Mark Wood wouldn't have won the World Cup. Paul Collingwood wouldn't have captained England in the T20 World Cup final in 2010. Because I don't think Paul Collingwood, Steve Harmison or Mark Wood would ever have played first-class cricket, never mind played for England. So we need 18 counties. We just have to have a sensible conversation, and not one where the players get all their own way, because I don't think they should. But what we need is just adults in a room to rejig what's going on, leave the 100 where it is because it's going to make us some money, and make sure the rest of it is done properly. And at the minute, the players are telling you it's not. So I think you have to listen to them.
Let's just go straight back to the logistics, though, Harmy, for the moment, because nothing's going to change this season. People will be
No.
saying or thinking, why are the players driving themselves? Why don't they go on a bus? Well, they do. And you know, I mean, Daniel Bell-Drummond spoke very openly about playing a T20 Blast game on a Friday night, and then another one on the Saturday morning, and facing 85 miles an hour bowling, feeling tired, and lacking any edge whatsoever, and that that's danger on the field. But I mean, you would have taken a bus, the team bus. You would have been on a coach with the team more than any other, because you based in Durham. But the reality is that a team can go to a game on a coach, but they still all have to go home. The coach can drive them back to their ground, but they still then got to drive. They might that might be a 2 or 3 hours on the motorway, and they still got to drive home. Daryl Mitchell was talking about players, just sort of so tired, having maybe an hour's drive, even if they were driven back to headquarters, to go back home. And then you've got to decompress, haven't you? You've got to unwind. You can't just go straight to sleep. It just, the logistics, I can't see a solution other than changing the fixtures. And that's not going to happen this season.
No, it's not going to happen this season. And you just hope and pray that we don't talk about something that is catastrophic, that, players deciding that it might be easier to drive. Us three drive because we can knock an hour off the journey. We don't have to stop as many times. We had this conversation in Durham. I lived an hour north of Durham. So everywhere was miles away when you played for Durham. It was just a little bit further, even further again for me when, I lived a bit further north. I had my brother with me. We had Phil Mustard, who lived halfway in between, north again. We had players probably live 30 minutes plus away from the ground. And it was always difficult. And we had these conversations. I remember when I first started in the late 90s, we would finish 40 over game at Hove at 8 o'clock on a Sunday night, having played a 4-day game before that. So we've had 5 days worth of cricket, overnight stay in Hove. And you ask the club, can we stay overnight? Now you've got to come back. We can't afford for you to stay overnight. So 3 years in a car, bags, the kit bags and everything that goes with it. 2 sets of pads, because obviously you're playing in white and blue. I know it's different now, but some of them still do this. And you're going, well, we're leaving Hove at 20 to 8 on a Sunday night. With road closures and everything that goes with that. It's a 6 and a bit hour drive from Hove to Ashington. And we're getting in at stupid o'clock in the morning. Now, yeah, we might not be practicing the next day, but I still haven't driven that. I've potentially about 50 overs in a week. Played a 40 over game in front of 2,000 or 3,000 people. You're up the all night in edge. And you've now got a 6.5 hour drive home. These things like soon mount up, and that's doing it once. You're doing this 4 or 5 times in a month. It does take its toll, whether you're on a bus or you're in a car. So again, I think we need to listen to the players. And I think the only solution going forward is to free up, the freeing up first class cricket, which gives you extra days in the Blast, because the Blast has to be played at weekends. It has to be played on a Thursday night. It has to be played on a Friday night. It has to be played on a Sunday afternoon. That's how you get 18 counties get their money through the gate. I don't think there's an easy solution, because the 100's not going anywhere, and the 100 needs to pay for it. But unfortunately, like I said before, the most important people in the game of cricket are the players. And if the numbers are as staggering as this, then I think they need listening to. I don't think they should all get their own way. I'd love to see somehow we can keep it to 12, 14 first-class matches, like I said before, because I don't think 10's enough with the weather in this country. But unfortunately, it looks as though that's the way it's going. Sir Andrew Strauss, he had a point when he had his high-performance review. I think there's a lot of stuff in that was very, very sensible. I know it was geared towards the England cricket team, But I think playing 10 games and guaranteeing 10 games and giving players rest and a recovery time will make the cricket better. And I think ultimately that's what we want to achieve in this country. Play on better pitches, whatever ball we want to use, making sure the players are supremely, these talented players that we've got are, you know, in the right place to play. Then sometimes less is more. And I think that might be better for English cricket. But we wait and see.
On AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.